Words About Books, and this week our episode is supported by Wobcoin. Join us on the blockchain as we go to the moon.
I'll cut this, but I swear to God, if we ever make a Words About Books coin, I am gonna hawk Tua the shit out of you people.
No, you can't. You can't cut that. You have to leave that in.
It's Words About Books. We're talking about a children's book, hence all the Bitcoin and profanity.
Is it a children's book?
She says it is.
Oh, I thought it would be like a young adult.
I read the afterword. I know you don't read a page
I
more than you have to.
absolutely will not do that.
Yes.
Unless this person happens to have a son named Brian Herbert who is talking about how they invented cargo shipping. I won't read a foreword, and I won't read an afterword.
So we're covering A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. So T. Kingfisher, I don't have much of an about the author for this. T. Kingfisher is the pen name of Ursula Vernon, who also publishes under the name Ursula Vernon. She is I think primarily a children's book author under her actual name.
It's crazy. I also publish things under a pen name, Ben.
You do a podcast under a pen name, Nate. Yeah, so she mostly does children's books. The T. Kingfisher name is her like off-brand stuff. So whatever her publisher doesn't want to touch, I guess it goes under the T. Kingfisher, and that includes A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking.
Yeah.
So this was your pick. Did you pick this?
No, this was a Patreon.
This is a Patreon. Okay,
Yeah.
So we got to thank the patrons. So you loved this.
Yeah.
You found your new favorite book.
Yeah. I'm leaning more towards a 4 than a 5, but yeah.
I'll see if I can ruin everybody's fun.
That is what you're here for.
This may be a rare one where I think we're going to have different opinions. I'm not going like super hard on it, but I didn't like it as much as you did.
Yeah, you didn't. And that's because you are a grown man, Ben. You're not a whimsical 14-year-old girl.
No, that is probably part of the problem. This is maybe not my thing. I think I was expecting more like Legends and Lattes, but it is definitely more of a, I would say, leaning on the young side of young adult.
Baby's first legend and latte.
Yeah, kind of. So
you're not here to own a business. You're here to work at a business.
Yeah, she's a 14-year-old girl, and the author is really afraid you might forget that at some point. So she's got to remind you that she's a 14-year-old girl, just like every other paragraph.
And thankfully, we didn't forget that. Although I did forget on occasion. So
how?
I'm glad that was there for me, Ben.
Okay.
So starts as all good young people books start with a dead body, Ben. Starts with a dead body.
That was promising.
Yeah, that was a great attention grabber. I was like, there's a dead girl in my aunt's bakery. Got it. So,
are you in trouble?
I'm a little in trouble. God damn it.
Do you need help?
Mona, right?
Mona is. Oh, you forgot her name.
Yes, it starts with an M.
I will give you this. It is first person from her perspective. So not a lot of people say her name that often.
Yeah, I think it's like the first few pages without it. So Mona is a wizard, Ben. Her special power is in bread. and baked goods. And she can suggest things to the baked goods like being extra stale or not burning in the oven. But her passion in life is to be a baker. And someday when she grows up, she will be the owner of her aunt's bakery. She will be head baker. She will get to sleep in until 6 a.m. instead of waking up and doing the grunt work at 3 a.m. But this dead girl in the bakery is maybe going to throw a wrench in that plan because it's really weird that there is a dead girl here.
Yeah, that's if you're a business owner, you're like arguably your first priority is people shouldn't die on the premises.
Yeah,
And that's why no one has ever died at Disney World.
exactly.
You take the body off site
Yeah, exactly. You
and
get the
then it dies.
wheelbarrow and you dump them, and then you go, "Whoa! How did this body get here? Whoa!" So we've got a bread mage,
Got a bread mage.
and we got her aunt.
The bread muggle.
Shit. I'm in
Tabitha.
trouble. Tabitha. Okay, and her uncle. Bob?
Bob is the name of the sourdough starter.
Damn it. Oh, you're right.
Uncle Albert.
Okay. I
So
remember.
this is a 5-star book for me. He loved this thing, and
Yeah, this is why it's so good. This is why the fold was initially so great, Ben. I didn't think about anything, and then
I didn't know who any of the characters were. I didn't know what they did. I just like bread mage. What? That's crazy.
All right, so we gotta call the local constables, Ben. We gotta figure out why there's a body in here. We gotta do some heavy sleuthing and detective work. It was Mona. Take her away, boys.
The first guy comes and he eats a bunch of muffins and he's like, I'm gonna need backup on this. I don't know what to do about this. He's like, I'll be
How do
honest
you
with you.
do your job, right?
He's like, I'll be honest with you. When you called me and said there was a dead body, I just thought you were straight up wrong. I thought it was going to be like a
He
hurt
calls in like
body.
two other guys who are also like, what do we like? We like got to get her out of here, right? Like we can't just leave this body here, right? What's the protocol when there's a dead body?
Yep.
Thank God we have my man, Inquisitor Oberon, to set the record straight. This 14-year-old did it, then called the cops to throw us off of her trail. It's like that thing where you self-report in Among Us, you know?
Yep. Yeah. That's probably, yeah. I mean, she was playing 3D chess and the police force was playing checkers. Also, this person was killed by a mage. There's a mage right here.
There's some magic around here. Yep. Take her away, boys. She breaded this girl to death.
Yeah, Simona reminds him that she's 14. I looked it up. Her name is mentioned 88 times, and the fact that she's a 14-year-old girl is mentioned 20 times.
Okay.
So that's about every 1 out of 5 times you hear her identity, it's accompanied with she's a 14-year-old girl.
I mean, what else was ID back then, right? Back in the good old days when we had mages.
Can I tell you what confuses me right off the bat? And I need your help with this.
The fact that there is a living sourdough starter that
no, I'm all about
becomes
that. That was
acid.
Great. That
yeah,
was
I
great.
like him. Bob is great.
Yeah, no. Bob, possibly my favorite character.
Mona accidentally brings a sourdough starter to life. And
she accidentally brings a couple of things to life. It raises serious philosophical questions.
No, it doesn't. Anyway, what are you confused about?
Oh, she's just a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah?
Nothing should ever happen to her. She's just a kid. I'm just a kid. I'm just a little
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
She has a
That
job in an
checks out.
apartment. Her parents
Yeah.
are dead.
Yeah.
What? So she's like an adult, right? In this society?
Well, they've got some really great property laws and some really bad child labor
I was
laws.
going to say she
So,
works more than 8 hours a day. She lives on her own. I just, but like whenever something weird happens, she's like, I'm just a 14-year-old girl. And it's like, would a person in your situation think that?
yes.
Would you get off a 12-hour shift and be like, I'm just a 14-year-old girl?
Yes.
I wouldn't. When I was 14, I didn't go around saying, I'm just a 14-year-old boy. Why is all of this terrible stuff happening to me?
Yeah, around that age, you kind of want to be perceived as an adult, right?
Especially if you're paying taxes. Jesus Christ.
Hey, we don't know. Maybe they could have got her for tax evasion, Ben. They just didn't look hard
It's like
enough.
Al
They tried to pin
Capone.
a murder on her,
She was
and
doing bread murders, but then it was the taxes they nailed her with.
yeah,
So yeah, she gets taken in. She's gonna have to go to the palace and answer to the I don't know who he thought she was gonna have to
Duchess.
answer to, but the Duchess was not supposed to be there.
She was supposed to answer to him. Swear to me.
Swear to me.
Did you kill that girl? Swear to me. So some shenanigans ensues at the palace, in which she needs to pee. I remember that, and there was a guard who was an asshole. Who was like, "I don't want to do that. That requires moving. I just want to eat my bread." And she makes the bread extra stale, Ben. And then we have the trial of the century. In one corner, you've got Mona, just a 14-year-old girl, pays taxes question mark. The other hand, you've got the Inquisitor Oberon,
Mona has a higher credit score than half our audience.
the Duchess, whose name I don't remember because almost everyone refers to her as the
I
Duchess.
don't know if she's ever named beyond that.
And you have the Golden General, who also presides over civilian court
I think
cases.
he's neither of them were supposed to be here. I think they were just sitting in on these like mage trials because he's an expert mage and she
Yeah,
can
he
do what
can
she
command
wants.
thunder and lightning, and he's awesome, and he leads an army. And I'll never be as cool as him because I'm a bread mage, but that's okay because I just want to bake bread. And Oberon is like, well, let me present the evidence. There's a dead body at this bakery. This girl works at this bakery, and magic was involved, and this girl is magic. Therefore, off with her
I'm
head.
gonna stop you there, Oberon. What's this girl's magic power?
She bakes things.
Was the
She's a
body
bread.
was the dead body choked on a baguette?
Well, our police force doesn't really know how to do
Was
that
there
sort of
frosting
thing.
found around the mouth of the victim?
If you give us like 20 minutes, there will be. All right. You just give me a moment. I can plant the evidence. I mean, I can find the evidence we need.
Oberon, fuck off.
All right. As you wish.
I do. I do wish
Okay.
that.
All right. I'm your faithful servant uh until the Golden General leaves to go fight, and then
I'll see you in hell, you piece of shit.
and then I'll fucking stab you in the back as hard as I can.
Fucking bring it, man. That's our relationship. We kid, we have fun.
So there's a lot of lore, and I don't know if I can even like. It's interesting, right? But it's not like super plot relevant, right? Like not a lot of it. It's like fun background bits, but I can at least say like there used to be like a big kingdom, right? And then it fractured into small like basically city states. And for some reason there's this hatred towards mages sometimes in some places but not here. And you would think it'd be really great to have the ability to just fire lightning at your opponents instead of having to hack at them with a sword. But I guess fuck them, right?
Well, you gotta be born a mage. I think that's the main problem. Is it's the
Jedi.
it's Marvel rules. Like
Oh.
if you acquire your
Ah.
powers through an accident, you're cool. If you're
Yeah.
born with them, you're a mutant, and I hate you.
Yeah. Captain America, good, because he got that super juice just pumped into his veins. Wolverine, bad, because,
Yeah.
he was born
I
that
could
way.
theoretically achieve what Captain America achieved, but because Wolverine was born with an inherent advantage over me, I hate him.
That checks out.
That
That
does
checks
kind of
out.
check out. People would do that, yeah. I actually,
Yeah.
in all fairness, I'm taking the negative role here, but like the world building is pretty good,
Yeah, it is.
and the magic system is honestly pretty good. Like I think I had a pretty good idea of where the limits were and like what people could do and when somebody was going to be in trouble and like when like eventually obviously it's called a wizard's guide to defensive baking. She's eventually going to have to do some defensive bread magic. So I did have there was a good sense of tension when she was like
Oh,
pushing
no.
the magic too far. Yeah, so I think you're right. Like the world building's really good, and she does a really good job of building out this city too.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a big city until they have to defend it. Then it feels like there's 15 people.
Yeah,
But
okay, that is true. They
but
they have
that's
one gate and that's all they need to defend right at the end. But before that, you're right. It is a very well
yeah.
developed city. Um yeah. And there's even like some lore you don't even know if it's true or not. Cuz her uncle was like, yeah, they built this city on top of an older city. There's just a bunch of shit like it's all city all the way down, buddy.
It's a very lived in world. She does a good job with that.
Yeah. But can't really bring that up, so that's why we like in the plot itself. So I wanted to make special mention of it because that was one of the things I really liked, and one of the things that you couldn't shit all over. So
you didn't know I
checkmate.
you didn't know I was going to like that.
So Mona walks home in the pouring rain, and then as she's trying to dry off, like a cart goes in and splashes a puddle on her, and then she trips and falls. Mona's worst day ever, you know?
Simone is no good, very bad day.
Yes. And this is where we're introduced to okay, this is where I got Molly from. That was her name.
Yes.
Knackering Molly, whose power is to bring back dead horses specifically. She's the horse whisperer.
But only when they're dead.
But only when they're dead. And she
I
rides around on a dead horse.
yeah, I do like the quirky magic. It is very X-Men.
And she supposedly is crazy. I don't think she's actually that crazy, but she was in the war. That war, like the war that Lieutenant Surge was in.
Oh yeah, in Pokemon.
Yeah, where you're like, wait a minute, there was a war. Hold on, go back.
Nobody and they keep talking about how one of Mona's customers, I guess, knew Molly before she went to war, and then knew her after she went to war. And he says, night and day. She wasn't always crazy. She wasn't always so like anti-establishment. Like Molly is a
She went to the
post-traumatic
war. She
stress.
came back a liberal.
She came back a liberal. She did kind of come back a liberal. More an anarchist, to be honest. I don't think she's a fan of like any government. But they talked about they were making it sound like that the army was wondering if she could control if she could reanimate more than just horses. And they kind of hint that that's what they made her do, but then they I thought something was going to happen with that at the end, and
I don't
then
know, because she also mentions like Mona's like, I saw the Golden General. Oh my god, he's so dreamy, guys. And Molly was like, yeah, He may look good now, but he'll fucking kill you in an instant if you get on his bad side. That's how they all are. And so I was like, okay, that's going to be like secret villain of the book. You can't just be this Inquisitor guy who's an asshole. It's got to be, you know, like a mage or something, right? He's high up. He commands the army. That's not where that went, Ben. I called that so wrong.
I I'll introduce one of my problems with the story here is it's kind of all over the place.
I would agree that it feels like it's going up, it builds to a point, and then we almost reset for the final third of the book.
I almost feel like there's three distinct
Oh?
plots. Like so and I'll admit like the first two kind of tie together better than the last third, but like there's the murder mystery plot.
Well, we know who did that because Molly is like, beware of the spring green man, and she leaves, and Mona's like, the who? Wait, the what? Hold on,
This
come back. What the fuck does that mean? And she's already gone.
the spring onion man is going to kill all the mages.
I'm
But
glad that I am not the only one who thought of onions.
no, what is spring green? I have no idea. Is this a
That
British
is
thing? I don't
that
know.
is the color of his suit. It's like how Minty Fresh in Dirty Job.
Yeah. Um
There you go.
no, but so there's the murder mystery. It's like who is the spring green man? Why is he doing this? Then
And
there's
we don't
the
actually figure that out until the second plot, right?
right, but then there's the Mona on the run part.
Yeah, yeah. She goes on the run and doesn't actually discover anything about like who the Spring Green Man is or find a way to clear her name.
So you could write a whole book about solving the murder. You could write a whole book about Mona having to clear her name. You could write a whole book about Mona having to defend the city. That's where
Yeah.
I'm saying there's like three
Or you
three
can
things
write
here.
one book about all three of those things.
But the problem is Mona doesn't solve any of these
Anything?
problems.
Yeah. That's because she's a 14-year-old girl, Ben. Did you not get that theme? This shouldn't be happening to her because she just makes bread and she's a 14-year-old girl.
I was promised
Defensive baking.
yes.
Well, that's what you got at the end when she makes big old bread golems.
Okay, I'm going to read the blurb about the book, and you're not going to be surprised how this starts. 14-year-old Mona isn't like the wizards charged with defending the city. She can't control lightning or speak to water. Her familiar is a sourdough starter who should have been in way more of this book. Her familiar is
No, her
actually
familiar is the
a
gingerbread
gingerbread
man.
man, but
Yeah.
the sourdough starter is there. And her magic only works on bread. She has a comfortable life in her aunt's bakery, making gingerbread men dance. But Mona's life is turned upside down. I added that. When
Yeah.
she finds a dead body on the bakery floor, an assassin is stalking the streets of Mona City, preying on magic folk, and it appears that Mona is his next target. And in an embattled city, suddenly bereft of wizards, the assassin may be the least of Mona's worries.
Oh,
See,
yeah. That blurb even kind of betrays there's two stories here.
yeah,
You say three. I would say, I guess you can look at. I was enjoying it up to a point, and then it felt like the book restarted. And I
I
agree, it's not bad, but it's not what I wanted. I wanted to figure out more about this guy, and then it
yeah.
was just like, oh, I think I know who that is. He actually works here. Um, well, don't worry, we'll get him
So,
easy.
so the genres are middle grade, young adult,
Ah,
cozy
see, I'm
fantasy.
high grade. That's my
I
problem.
I actually do agree. I did not realize it was going to be middle grade. So that was probably like the first thing that was kind of like off-putting to me. I wouldn't typically read something like that. Um, but better than Pendragon. I'll give it that. This has a lot going for it. But better than the last middle grade book I read. But the cozy thing, I don't know if I really agree with that.
What, you don't think hanging out in a chapel, eating stale bread all day, and being bored out of your mind is not a cozy thing?
Okay, Mona in this book, Mona pisses herself with fear,
You're right. She
crawls through
does.
literal shit twice, and steps over a dead body in the first scene, and then like all of her friends are slowly picked off by a serial killer who will eventually stab her despite her being a 14-year-old girl. And she's pushed nearly to like there's like a Shinji getting the robot moment when she has to animate all these bread golems.
So then, I'm supposed to jump inside and fight whatever I saw out there?
Correct.
And I don't know, like I know we want to call it cozy because she's a precocious kid who,
I think it would be cozy if she spent all of her time in the bakery.
yeah, like the bakery stuff's cozy, but the murder stuff is most of the book.
And the being on the run and
Yeah.
climbing. Yeah, you're right.
I think that's the thing. I think they tried to like, well, I don't know that anybody specifically marketed this as anything, but like, it's kind of portraying itself in that like new-ish cozy fantasy space. And it doesn't really fit. Like it kind of wants to.
Yeah, I would agree. It wants to be at least two different stories.
Yeah. I'll save the rest of my comments for after the summary.
So, yeah, beware the spring green man, and then just like, okay, I don't want onions in my bread anyway.
Could this day get any worse? Oh my god, who has me in a chokehold?
Where is she? That's a quote. And luckily, this guy who has her in a chokehold is smaller than she is. He's only 10, Ben.
Nobody comments on that. Nobody's like, oh, Spindle's only 10.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Spindle, I need you to find a way to get into the Duchess's lair. Can you also steal me a bunch of food? And also keep an eye on the street for me. Can you
I'll
do
try
all those
Mona,
things?
but I'm only a 10-year-old boy. I don't know.
Yeah. But you live on the street. It's different for you.
Why do I have to do this?
Shinji, get in the Ava.
Yeah, you age much faster.
Yeah. You've had a rougher life.
You're lower income and generally have poorer health outcomes.
Yeah. You know who else had poor health outcomes? Your sister.
That's who died.
She's dead. Yeah, sorry. She came in, and the one in the yellow greeny outfit, as you say, that's the spring green man. See where I'm connecting that idea from the last chapter to this chapter, and hey, that guy must have been the one who stabbed your sister and killed her in the bakery and then left, wiping her blood all over his hands and robes and shit. Did I mention she's dead? You don't believe me? Come in here. Let me find something that she left here that she never would have left behind. It was like a locket. I can't
I
remember.
think it was a bracelet, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, she left it here. She's dead, Spindle, because she was a wizard.
Then Spindle runs away, never to be seen again.
Yeah, that's right, Spindle. Keep running.
Swear to me, Spindle.
Swear to me. So, all right, we're good now. I think everything's going to return to normal now. We're definitely not going to have the racists come out of the woodwork and get real uncomfortable with the wizard folk, you know? Oh, yeah, Lord Ethan. That's his name. The Golden General. He and the army, they're going to go take out some Carrick's mercenaries, Ben. Carrick's mercenaries were a bunch of assholes who are like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just show up and kill all of you, eat all your food, shit in your house, and then when you come to displace me, I'll just regroup in the hills and I'll go do it again and again and again. You should probably just wipe us out.
No one wipes out the Visigoths. I mean,
They did.
yeah, but
They did get wiped out pretty hard.
the
But
Romans aren't wiping out the Visigoths.
the Byzantines considered themselves Roman, and they
Yeah, but I don't because
okay.
they're in the exotic East. Okay.
Okay. So let's see what. Oh yeah, she talks about how like the carpenter, he has a magic power of like removing knots from wood, and his shop is closed. And one of the regulars at the bakery is like, I'm glad everyone's starting to see the truth about you people. I have been coming to this bakery for years under protest because you're a disgusting, filthy magicer and your disgusting, gross hands have been all over the bread. But I tolerate it because if I wanted to go somewhere else, I would have to reroute a few blocks over, and that would really cut into my morning commute, you piece of shit. But I'm glad the city's finally waking up, and you people are gonna get got.
To be fair, that's a pretty accurate portrayal of how like customer service goes. There is always that guy who comes in and treats you like absolute shit and then demands you be grateful for his business.
Yeah, fucking leave.
Yeah, please. Like I don't care if this Sears fails. And then it did. The
And
whole
then
company
it
did.
Yeah.
And it was so like I was so happy.
So yeah. Anyway, you people are gonna get what's coming to you. See you later. I'm out of this story forever. And then Mona's like, "Wow, why is everyone suddenly just really racist against mages?" And I have to ask Ben, why is everyone suddenly racist against mages? There's a magic mage, like there's a guy running around killing people who uses magic, but he's killing other mages.
I
It's
was
not
kind of
like
wondering about that.
it's not like he like murdered someone in city council or like a mayor or like, oh, this guy's the pillar of the community and a mage killed him. You're killing other mages. So now Mona is she's getting all prepped for another day of baking to a racist world. And the door opens. It's probably just my aunt. I'm not even gonna look up because, you know, who else could it be? And then she almost gets stabbed. It's the Spring Green Man, and he can smell her magic.
And he can also fill the air with his own smell.
Yeah, his musk.
His own Elon Musk.
And so she runs down to the basement to hide, and he's like, I can smell. I don't even need to see you. I know exactly where you are. And then, luckily, she had. Oh, yeah, he also mentions, like, if that idiot Oberon had taken care of you like he was supposed to, I wouldn't have to bother with this. But I do enjoy killing. Oh boy, I can't wait to stab a 14-year-old girl. I sure do love stabbing people. And Mona throws Bob the sourdough starter onto his face. And he starts screaming in pain. And I was like, is Bob going to eat this guy's face? He sure tries.
Yeah.
She pumps magic into him to make him angry. And boy, was he angry.
Yeah, I wonder why he didn't eat the guy's face, because Bob eats meat. Like at this point, he's killed several rats.
He's eaten rats, so he should have eaten this guy's face. But that would have solved the mystery. We can't solve the mystery yet. So, She runs. Spindle's there. And Spindle's like, I saw the whole thing. I watched that guy go into your bakery with the intent of murdering you. And now we gotta go. Let's get the fuck out of here.
And they run. And
They run into the rat's nest. When you talk about a bad neighborhood, that's the rat's nest, Ben. They're gonna hide in the rat's nest from a guy whose face might be eaten off by a rabid sourdough starter. And they go and they find, no, Molly finds them. And
yeah.
Molly was like, let me follow up on some leads while I leave you two children here in my decrepit apartment without food, water, or supervision. Okay, bye.
Well, again, Mona has a full-time job in an apartment.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to be supervised.
Why? Yeah, but she's just 14.
Not supervised most of the time.
Spindle, on the other hand, is 10. He's a man already.
So this is where I started to get confused because Mona starts talking about grown-ups. She starts using the word grown-ups, which I don't think I used after age 8. I don't know about anybody else. But all of a sudden she's like, I can't believe Knacker and Molly just left us. She's a grown-up. Shouldn't she take better care of us? And I'm like, you literally live alone. You walk to and from work in the dark by yourself.
And you've been attacked at least twice in the dark by yourself.
You were arrested and interrogated without a guardian present. Like, it's not like you have school tomorrow, Mona. I just don't understand. I don't understand. Like, for a while there, it felt like Mona was just a person living in a city with a job who, she's young.
That's fair.
But then all of a sudden she's like, where are the grown-ups? Grown-ups should be taking care of me. And it's like, your parents are dead and your aunt has you live somewhere else and makes you work 12-hour shifts. Like, I don't, what?
and her idea is, let's call the police. I have an idea. Let's leave.
Let's call the cops.
But
Let's tell
first,
the
to get out, you have to go through the perfume section. Anyway, she finds a constable and she's like, hey. And Spindle's like, that's a bad idea. They're all in on it. And she's like, no. It'll be okay. Hey.
We can trust the government.
I have a crime to report. We can trust the government even though the government tried to falsely imprison and or execute me for a murder I clearly didn't do after doing no investigation.
She just can't believe that.
Well, she begins when she believes it when this guy grabs her and doesn't let go and signals for other guards, and she and Spindle have to make a break for it, finally ending in them using bread to float down a river of sewage.
Yep.
To escape from the police.
It's a very slow speed chase as they just sort of slowly float away with everybody watching.
I can't swim, and also, I mean, have you seen that river? That shit's polluted all to hell. I'm not getting in there, okay? Fucking Inquisitor Oberon, he can come down here, he can fire me himself, or he can swim in it, but I'm not going in there, okay?
Oh, no, yeah, if I'm the cops, I'm not going in. By the way, where did all the cops go when the siege happens?
That's a good question. And they were on. Look, they're cops, not soldiers. You know, like,
aren't they though? Or like, I mean, they're guards. We're calling them cops, but they're guards.
No, they're constables. Ben, they're here. They're like sheriffs. You know, you don't have a sheriff in the military. That's ridiculous.
They do have military police, but there's no duty to protect, right?
Exactly. At this time, also, by this point in the book, Mona has had a bunch of wizards being like, hey, we're getting out of town. Shit's getting real. Because, again, the mages are afraid of being stabbed and also now being persecuted.
I'm like, this is another one where I was kind of like, the book, it tries to have these, like, highly quotable moments.
The gingerbread man made a show of holding his nose. Is that one of them?
No, I'm thinking more along the lines of like...
She does have a gingerbread man. We've mentioned that, but I need to point it out again.
Like, nobody should have to be a hero.
Nobody... Don't give out medals, Ben.
I think... I mean, like, I think it's really... it's begging you to quote that. Um,
I'm only 14. I shouldn't be a hero.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff about like adults failing you and all this stuff.
I cannot pilot this thing!
Stop wasting time. Either get in the Eva or get out.
And like I'm trying to think. I highlighted some of it. But okay, like one like being a 14-year-old girl on the road alone meant there were worse things than bears out there. Um she would not
Is that
choose, or she would choose the bear.
Yeah,
Um
is that a quote?
yeah.
Oh my god.
I
Hold
actually
on.
think this was published before that meme, so she
Oh my
anticipated that.
god.
Um
She's very perceptive.
or that's just been a thing for a long time.
Yeah, maybe.
Um
I would have preferred to just grow up and get my period like a normal person.
that was one. No, there's one thing I'm looking for. You know, like heroism's a bad habit. Once you've done it, other people start to expect it. If the city's in danger again, everybody will remember the last time you saved them, and they'll forget all the nasty, exhausting bits where you nearly died and had to sleep for a week and your headache
Will they
didn't go
also
away for
forget the
3 days.
racism where they were telling me that I was gonna get mine now,
Yeah.
and now suddenly they're like, "Oh, you're so brave and heroic." Like, Duchess, do I get one? Like, do I get a freebie? Because I know who I want to use it on.
And she has all these lines about why didn't the like I'm actually angry at the adults who didn't stop it. I shouldn't have had to be a hero. I'm just a 14-year-old girl. And she keeps saying that over and over and over. And I'm like,
Because this task would be impossible for others.
It's impossible for me too. I've never even heard of this thing until now, and you want me to fight in it?
there's obviously a message here about how unfair it is for adults to like pass their problems on to their children. Like I don't know
But
if
you are right that this society sure does make her feel like an adult.
yeah, she's an adult until
You pay your taxes, so
right up until the point where knackering Molly, shelters her from a murderer, and she suddenly starts thinking like grown-ups should take care of me. I'm that sort of came out of nowhere for me, and I guess the author always thought of Mona as just a 14-year-old girl, like the 14-year-old girls presumably reading this book who are going to school the next day and are entirely dependent on their
and not someone who has their own apartment and makes a living wage and pays taxes and has magic. All right, so this next part of the book is just a big downer because she's like, "All right, I escaped a serial killer. I ran from the cops. I'm now a fugitive." Um, and Molly is like, "Yeah, you're not staying at my house. How about we put you up in the chapel because this chapel, I know the guy there, and like the head priest is blind as all hell. So like, you just stay in there. There's a bell tower, but there's no bell, so you got a
he's
free
deaf.
room."
He's deaf, by the way. He's not blind.
Oh, deaf. Okay, not blind, deaf. Um, and like maybe there's also a thing with like hollowed ground. Like maybe it will mask your magic. I don't know if that's real or not, but you'll be fine. So they put her up there. Spindle keeps bringing her bits of information and food that isn't just like stale bread. She starts working on her animations. She makes a bird that just explodes because bread isn't meant to fly, Ben. That's a quote. Bread is not meant to fly. Um, that's not even an allegory. That's a true statement. Anyway, she also makes a little bread circus. The gingerbread man appears to be getting smarter and smarter. Usually when she animates the gingerbread men, she like takes the magic back out of them, but she didn't do that this time, and he just keeps on living. He's effectively immortal, Ben, and he's getting smarter.
Yeah, he's. I mean, he's her familiar. I don't know why. I was all excited for like Bob to be the familiar.
Yeah, he's not. Bob's a weapon.
Yeah, but the gingerbread man, she's like, "Can you have two familiars?" And I'm like, You can. The back of the book made it sound like you had one, and he's not in most of the book, but you can have two, I guess.
So
Basically, Mona's power is she turns bread into golems. I mean,
yeah,
there's only so many ways to use bread.
you can make it really stale. You can
You know
make it
how like
really tasty.
flour is highly combustible?
No, I don't know that. I
It
think you just
is.
made that up just now.
It
I'm gonna
is.
go test this by lighting some flour on fire in my house, and we'll see how wrong you are, Ben.
Start a grease fire, throw some flour on it, see what happens. No, I don't know. There's like basically all she could do is make bread golems. That's all she will ever do. And
So, but Ben, do you think that maybe she is a Carrick spy? Because now we're saying of a Big Brother thing where you need to. Do you really know your neighbor? And we need to start registering wizards. And
just like the Mutant Registration Act in the
yeah,
X-Men.
yeah. So that's weird.
Mona should join
This,
up with a Magneto faction.
and it turns out Magneto was right.
It turns out Magneto was wrong, and that there's a different way. There's a middle ground, which is kind of the note this tries to
Kill them
end on.
all. Oh,
Well, you can't kill them all because being a wizard isn't like genetic in this thing. Like in X-Men, of course, Magneto's like, well, we're the future of humanity, or
so this is several chapters of like things are getting worse. Things are getting worse. Mona is in a bell tower. Things are getting worse, and then finally she's like, you know what? We need to go to the government for help. And Spindle's like, didn't we try this with like the cops? And she's like, yeah, but like, what if we go to like their supervisor and like their supervisor? Let's go to the Duchess. I'm sure the Duchess just doesn't know what's going on here.
Mona
And
wants to
my
talk to a manager.
and exactly. And I wrote down some notes here. A higher power. I needed a higher power, not a spiritual one, but right here in the city, the Duchess. My note is she would be complicit. And then she goes, "Did the Duchess even know about the posters?" I said, "Yes, 100%." And then and then it ends with, which is how we wound up 5 nights later climbing up the Duchess's toilet. And I went, "Well, that was sudden." So So
Yeah.
I was 100% like, yeah, obviously the Duchess is behind this. She's the Inquisitor's boss. Obviously, she would be giving the orders through, like, he'd be giving the orders through from her, right? Like,
Can I tell you what I thought was going to happen? I thought, because they tell all these stories about like all the papers are like, oh, these mages are terrible, they're sneaky, they're doing all this stuff, they're doing sneaky mage stuff,
yeah, a
and
mage is killing other mages.
and the Carricks, they're a bunch of man-eating hill folk that are completely uncivilized and
they kill their mages.
they kill their mages, and they expose their mages. If a kid's born with magic, they just leave it in the wilderness to die. And if they attack a city, they're too stupid to manage it. They just eat everything and then move on. And it's like, I thought like, oh well, the way they're telling lies about the mages, they're probably also telling lies about the Carricks, because it's a whole theme of like, you shouldn't just believe a bunch of bad stuff about a loosely coded ethnic group that you've never met.
Well, as it turns out, you should, Ben, because they are crazy hill people who will eat your babies or whatever and kill their mages, and they're just bad. So,
Win some, lose some. Sometimes propaganda's right, sometimes it's spot on. That's the lesson I learned.
so yeah, Spindle's like, this is a dumb plan, and you're gonna get yourself killed, and obviously the Duchess is in on this. You son of a bitch, I'm in. And He finds a way in. He's like, okay, we're gonna just sneak in. You're gonna like pretend to be a baker or whatever. I'll be the cleaning staff or some shit. I don't know, whatever. We're gonna just kind of like we're gonna wing it, but then we're gonna meet up after hours here at the old shitter. Okay. So when us common folk go, we like shit in the ground or something. We just dump it in the street because it's a medieval society or post, like a Renaissance society, whatever, man. And but these higher ups, when they shit, it goes into a hole that someone else cleans several stories down. We're gonna climb up that shitter. I've got the key. I made a copy of the key. We're gonna break in there. We're gonna climb up the shitter. There's like some spikes or whatever in there to prevent people from doing exactly what we're doing. But I'm just a 10-year-old boy and you're just a 14-year-old girl. So we can squeeze through when someone is squeezing out. You know what I'm saying? Pow pow. All right, meet me there at midnight or whatever. Okay, bye. We climb up through miles and miles of shit. It's not actually miles, it's just like 3 stories.
Andy crawled to freedom through 500 yards of shit-smelling foulness I can't even imagine. Or maybe I just don't want to.
And we emerge. We emerge like big old shit golems right from the Duchess's toilet as she walks in on us, and we're like, "Shh, Your Majesty," or whatever. We've got something to tell you.
Don't undersell it, because Mona's stuck.
Yeah, that is true. We're not here to kill you, but like, give me a moment. We need some help.
Mona's stuck. Her pants fall off. Mona's wearing a skirt this whole time, by the way. I pictured her in pants because, like, I'm picturing like a pastry chef, but like, I guess she's wearing a skirt the whole time.
I don't know what's wrong with you. Obviously,
Yeah.
you wear as little as possible when you're pastry chefing. I wear a banana hammock and some tassels, and I'm good to go. I also imagine pants, okay?
Yeah, I know. Because that's how you fry bacon, right? Like it's the X Games. No, so her pants fall off. She's covered in human excrement, and she's half naked, and she stumbles through the toilet and be like, "Duchess, you gotta listen to me. They're killing all the mages." And the Duchess is like, "I know, and it's so sad, and I just wish I could do something about it."
And I'm like, "Wait, hold on, is this for real?" And then, then they're like, "Well, what are we gonna do?" And she's like, "Well, the guards are still loyal to me, but we can't just get rid of Oberon. He's too well connected in the city council. That is the most sacred institution of our democracy." Anyway,
Joshua, the Pooh children have given me the confidence I need
yes,
to foil this rebellion.
She's like, "All right, well, I guess we're gonna get rid of Oberon then." First we need to get the army recalled. We've got 3 wizards here, though. It's the problem. Because one of them died not too long ago of what I assume is natural causes. We did a very thorough investigation. We called in the constables and everything, and they assured me, like, natural causes. He shot himself 10 times in the back. Or, sorry, he stabbed himself 10 times in the back.
It was suicide, and he slashed his own throat. But the weird thing was, it was like...
He smelled really weird.
It was left to right, but he was left-handed, so, like... But
he did it to throw us off, Yeah, anyway, case closed.
He left a note that said he was pretty sad.
Yeah. And then the other wizard, he's loyal to me because he knew my dad because they're both old as shit. And the third wizard, I suspect, is the one you call the Spring Green Man because he always wears green and his superpower is smells. So yeah, I guess it's not even really a suspicion. It's definitely him. So we're going to call the army back. And we've got a water mage who's like, all right, well, everyone, things that used to be part of one another are still one thing, even if you divide it later. So, like, if you have one piece of bread that you divide in half, that's still one bread, and you can do one thing. You can, like, send that bread off to the army, and then you can use your bread to somehow communicate. Anyway, I did that, but with water, and I'm gonna send a message through the water to tell them to come back. And why is everything red and I can't breathe any? Turns out the Spring Green Man lives right next door, and nobody thought to get rid of him first. So, oopsies. But in his final dying breath, that wizard whose name I don't remember helps Mona disable the Spring Green Man, who has acid burns all over his face because he was being eaten by a sourdough starter.
He does this by throwing boiling water on him. It's cozy.
Ah! He's just constantly getting shit thrown on him that burns his face off.
It's like how Home Alone was a cozy Christmas film.
I mean, it was until, certain scenes of it. Most of them, actually, are bad for the cozy factor,
That's the subtle point I was trying to get to
Yeah,
through my sarcasm.
I know. But I'm here to explain it to the people who don't know, who are only 4 years old listening to this podcast, Ben.
It's a middle grade cozy podcast.
So now we've got to move quickly. We got every guard who is loyal to me in this room, and we're gonna go get rid of Oberon. And we're just gonna get him. Like, there he is. Knock on his door, and he's like, "Hey, you're under arrest for crimes against the crown or whatever." And he's like, "Eat my asshole." And she's like, "No, you." And then he gets exiled because you can't just kill him. He's got too many friends in high places. What we'll instead do is confiscate all of his stuff, which nobles don't like you to do, and redivide it amongst the other members of the city council as bribes, and everything will go back to normal. It's okay if many members of your council were on board with a coup against you, as long as you came out on top, You can just sit comfortably for, like, let's say 4 years doing nothing and just hope for the best. Oberon's gone. He's never coming back.
Nobody should have to be a hero.
Yeah.
But she should have to be a duchess.
Yeah.
And why isn't she better at it?
Why isn't she better at it? Because they got rid of him real easily. Maybe she just needed some youthful energy to motivate her to round up all of the guards in the palace and then oust this guy with overwhelming force. Like a duchess, not a hero. Duchess, Ben.
Well, Mona, it was complicated, you see, because if I kick him out, there's going to be consequences. And then a couple weeks later...
Not even weeks, days.
Yeah.
Whoops. Also, they put the Spring Green Man in prison. And, like, why? He's committed murder in front of your eyes.
Okay, the thing
Open and shut case.
He was just so... This isn't going to line up time-wise at all. But he was just so sad, and they wanted to let him out to climb some trees. That's a Lord of the Rings reference. Listen to Talking About Tolkien.
He is just a 20-year-old man. He didn't know that when he slid the knife into the fleshy screaming things that they would die.
I'm just a 60-year-old political figurehead. I didn't know I was going to have to defend against a coup. Why didn't the governors do their jobs? Why do they got a coup?
Yeah.
Why is it? Who's looking out for me?
Yeah. Who is looking out for you? You're the real victim here. You had to lounge about in your palatial estate until someone else did all the work for you.
Okay, they didn't do all the work for me. Okay, I did a lot of the work. It's just
You also delegated it to Joshua after
I delegate.
Yeah,
Hey,
there you go.
that's a skill. It's not
Yeah.
easy to delegate.
Yeah, that's why you make the big money at the top. You took all the risk, you know.
I'm the idea person. Now I know it was technically Mona and the Ship Boys' idea, but
They delegated to you, and so you ran
they
with
did.
that
Yeah, Mona
idea.
delegated it to me. Why did Mona make me a duchess?
How dare she?
That's my thing. But you know what? Don't worry, Mona. I've got it from here. 2 days later, Mona, you got to save the entire city.
Yo, Shinji, get in the robot! Your dad loves you, get in the robot!
And she's like, but I'm only 14 and I can do like 10 push-ups without dying, so I don't know if I can do that.
The cockpit's too small for a grown-up. Kick some butt in your robot!
She's like, well, Mona, you're the only mage left in the city. And Mona's like, that's objectively not true.
Fuyutsuki. Wake up, Ray.
In her condition?
She's not dead.
There are other mages in the city. And she's like, yeah, well, they don't want to talk to me anymore. What with the Nazi takeover?
Yeah, and they won't listen to my pleas of like, I didn't know.
We've got 2 days until the army arrives, Mona. And if I were Mona, I'd be like, tell you what, Duchess, don't you worry about a thing.
Bye.
Mona's going to save this city. I'll meet you at the palace. I just got to get some stuff.
Yeah.
Hear the back door close, my car start. Spindle, get the fuck in the car.
If you don't do something, everyone in this city will die. Do you promise? Don't threaten me with a good time, Duchess. These people wanted to hang me for making gingerbread men dance. So, yeah, I think I'll burn the city to the ground.
My aunt just
final
immediately
answer.
assumed I was dead. I don't even think she looked for me.
She did just assume you were dead. Oh. And apparently Bob would survive whether or not she was dead, because... No, she didn't assume, because she saw, like, they hung pictures.
She assumed she was dead. Then they hung the pictures. And
Yeah,
she was
and
like,
she's
oh,
like,
good, she's alive.
She's alive, because otherwise they wouldn't be hunting her like a dog.
And we went to the palace to ask about you, but they said to go away. And then
We did.
I just made more bread.
Yeah. Anyway, you coming back to work today?
No, they did offer, they did tell her to take some time off, but Mona was like, no, I need a sense of normalcy. And then that's when the Duchess was like, you're in charge of the city's defenses.
Yeah. Luckily she started developing her mental muscles, and she's practicing. She's training for the Saiyans to arrive. I mean the Carricks to arrive. And she is getting all of her mental muscles ready. She read that water guy's book on how to do some stuff and make some golems, and she's going to make gigantic bread golems, Ben.
The ultimate man-made, multi-purpose decisive combat weapon. The artificial human, Evangelion. This is Unit 1.
And I even predicted she would make a giant gingerbread man, because I have also watched Shrek 2, but she did not make a giant gingerbread man. And I was sad, because Shrek 2, Ben. Alright, well, I can summarize the very ending pretty quickly. Carricks arrive.
I'll do it. I'll be its pilot.
They fight, and then they fight, and then they bust through the city gates very easily. You would think it would be a little harder to bust in through the city gates, but this is actually quite easy. And then
we'll breach it.
Then they come across giant bread golems, and wouldn't you know, bread is immune to slashing. or no, it's resistant to slashing,
resistant to slash.
immune to bludgeoning. So they're incredibly tanky, and every round the Carracks send in more guys through a narrow passage, but then they have to fight 6 bread golems who all get attacks of opportunity, and so this isn't going well for the Carracks.
It would be nice if we had troops supporting the.
For some reason, there are troops, but not here or something. I don't know.
Where else would they be?
I have no idea. Oh yeah, she also releases some really tiny mean gingerbread men to cause havoc, and she makes more of Bob to be like acid bombs.
The tiny gingerbread men don't do anything, and it's never relevant.
Yeah, they could have done more.
They didn't do anything.
Maybe some war crimes like poison some wells and war crimes.
Yeah.
You're only 14. You can't go to jail for war crimes.
I don't think
So then she's fixing her golems, but they're starting to learn how to destroy the golems. And then the Spring Green Man is there, and she is going to get got because she gets stabbed by him. And oh yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna take over the city after the Carracks kill everyone and then are killed by the army. I didn't think this plan through, but I will rule the city instead of Oberon. I am the best. Spring Onion for the win. And then he dies.
A skeletal horse kicks his skull in.
Okay, yep. I just got to that in my notes. Yeah, Molly to the rescue, and Mona is like, "Oh my God, they're killing the golems." I've got one last thing. And she is definitely collapsing under the strain this whole time. As it goes on, she's getting worse and worse and worse. Finally, she's like, "You know what? I got a big hunk of dough. I'm gonna just pump it full of magic like that dough bird, and it's gonna explode, but I'm gonna die."
Strap the cookie dough to my chest and send it through the gate.
But then Molly is like, "No, just me," and she dies instead for our sins.
She summons every
She
skeletal
summons
horse.
all
in the city.
the horses in the city and stampedes. How do the Carracks ever win fucking anything if they go up against a city that has magic users? You're gonna like, let's charge the gates, and then I drop a volcano on you. You're dead now. I've just wiped out your entire civilization.
Well, I have
Whatever.
another question for you.
Molly is dead. The Golden General's like, "Good job, Mona. You did a thing. Don't be a hero because it sucks, but you're gonna be a hero. It's just gonna happen anyway. I want to train you to be a bread military officer." And she's like, I'll go on weekends or whatever, but like I just want to be a baker. And he's like, haha, okay, but you still have to pay your taxes.
Can I ask you a question, General Ethan?
What is it?
Who were you fighting this whole time?
I assume that we were hunting the Carracks and just never found them, or it was like a small raiding party. This is the worst. Yeah, this is awful military intelligence that we took our entire army out of the city to go find you. We got no garrison.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had walls with a gate that was made of paper.
Yeah, we forgot we brought our paper mage with us. You know, the one that reinforces the gate so it's not made of paper.
Make fun of that, but John Bierce is gonna come after you.
Uh-oh.
Paper mages are a thing.
Yeah, I know. I've watched Read or Die.
Okay. So
she uses paper to kill people, Ben.
Yeah, I know. So here's my thing with the big
and
finale.
Molly was in that too. I'm pretty sure it was Molly. Please tell me I'm right. Anyway,
here's my thing with the big finale.
Yeah.
Everything Mona does, Mona holds the gate for an hour.
Yeah,
She needed to hold it for 2 days.
but we killed everyone or routed them.
Yeah, because a character came in from off screen and Deus Ex Machina the whole thing.
Yes, it is exactly like Helm's Deep. Exactly.
Yeah, but that's not. Oh boy, don't don't start with me about Peter Jackson. Okay, much like the Peter Jackson movie, horses are they just ride over anything when you want them to.
Yeah, that checks out. I've ridden a horse before in a video game, and that's exactly what happened. So,
Yeah. So here's the thing. Mona gets attacked by the Spring Green Man. Spindle saves her.
yep.
Mona has to clear her name. Spindle off screen comes up with the plan to get her into the palace.
She's only a 14-year-old girl.
Spindle's 10.
He's a 10-year-old man, okay?
He's also illiterate.
Yeah, he put all of his points into charisma and strength and dex, Ben.
And
he drained his int for that, all right?
So Spindle does all of the work of getting her around places and getting her where she needs to be. The only thing Mona does in this is guilt trip the Duchess into acting.
It was very easy to do. She just needed a little tiny push to get over her inaction.
The book ends on such a weird bummer note of Mona being entirely exhausted, completely.
It's an anime. She fell asleep for a few days. She woke up good as new.
No, she's completely exhausted. She's totally disillusioned. She even admits to like low key hating the Duchess and the General for letting this happen. And that's the end. She's just like, yeah, I learned that I'm completely on my own. I can't trust anyone except maybe
Good.
Spindle.
I'm glad you finally learned that lesson. You kept trying to go and appeal to authority, and all authority wanted to do was become a fascist anti-wizard dictatorship. Which, by the way, thank you for overthrowing. We're all back to normal. Just kidding. Can you make bread for me?
Editor Ben here. So I've been joking a lot as I edit this about the way that the whole I'm 14 and nobody's taking care of me thing sort of parallels what happens in the 1995 anime Neon Genesis Evangelion that perhaps no one listening to this podcast has seen or remembers. And I'm realizing now as we come to the end and I hear myself complaining about how it ended on a bummer note with her disillusioned. I mean, we could... there's a whole nother podcast to be made about the complex nature and history of Evangelion, but like that's how sort of the original Evangelion series ended in the end of Evangelion movie. And now I've done this as a joke, like comparative analysis of A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking in Neon Genesis Evangelion. And now that I've reached the end of my memeing and clipping, I think it actually works. I think I'm full of shit. I think I actually like the ending now, and I kind of even like that she's that Mona's not a proper hero, that somebody else came in and saved the day, because at the end of the day, with the Evangelion comparison, there's nothing really special about Shinji either. There's a whole thing to be said here. Wow. I kind of accidentally backdoored myself into thinking very, very deeply about the story in a way I don't know if I'm intended to think about it, because I had this perception that Mona was just this plucky character in a cozy fantasy story that wound up not being so cozy. And I was attributing that to a problem with the story, but now I'm kind of wondering, like with Evangelion, where it positions itself as like a just another mecha sci-fi anime, and then it turns into this dark examination of like existential stuff and Freudian psychology and everything. I'm wondering if she didn't 180 me here. I'm wondering if I wasn't tricked into thinking more deeply about something. So essentially, I'm totally at odds with the Ben that recorded this podcast. I think I have actually come around 180 degrees on this. I'm confused now. I don't know what to think. So this is an editor Ben addendum. This comparison between Evangelion and A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking that I started as a joke has now become very real and interesting to me, and it colors my entire perception of the book, and I'm not really sure what to do with that. I just thought you guys should know that, like, whatever you hear this guy saying up until the end, I'm revisiting it. I got a lot to think about. Damn it. So I don't really know like what the lesson was. I don't think this was cozy. I don't think you can say that because it ends on such a downer. I don't think it really fulfills the cutesy premise of defensive baking, because the author seems to have very quickly run out of ideas for how to fight an invading army with bread, and then was just like, somebody else does it.
Big bread golem.
Yeah, and that even the author's like, that worked for 15 minutes, and then somebody else has to.
Why didn't she make a suit of bread, like a bread armor?
I don't know. I mean, I would have this fancy idea. Like, I would have the idea that there is a bread mage who has a sourdough starter familiar, and I feel like I too would quickly run out of novelty for that concept before the book was over.
I would throw a muffin and it would explode like a grenade, Ben. And then you get
Why
blueberries.
didn't she do that? Because she figured out she could explode the things by putting too much magic into it. Stuff a muffin full of nails.
Get some grape shot.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to defend the wall because you would just mow them down while they charged at you.
Plant cookies on the bridge.
Shit, I think we just solved the problem. Don't make bread golems, make grape shot, and just blow up muffins full of nails.
I don't think this is where I had a problem with the book. Is I don't think it's cozy. I don't think it does anything really. It doesn't do much with her being a bread mage. There's a couple of fun things, like the gingerbread man's cute. The mischievous gingerbread men are cool.
She trains a little bit with it, and then she just makes a big old bread.
I think this one is like semi self-published. Like, I think she eventually just put this one out on her own, and she talks about it a bit in the acknowledgments, like the journey.
Oh, well, then I shouldn't have even picked this one for the patrons, Ben, but you weren't. There's no oversight over here, okay? You're supposed
Why
to
did
be
I
the
let
Supreme
you do
Court.
that?
Why did you let me do this?
You're only, what, 35?
34. Thank you. I'm much younger than 35.
Yeah, not for long. Hang on, I'm just checking. Actually, it was easier to publish it myself. Yeah. Okay. So she talks about how the Bread Wizard book, like, she didn't know how to bake when she started writing this in 2007. The book is not published until 2020. And she talks a little bit in the acknowledgments about
how long did this take?
Well, I'll tell you why. There is a reason for this.
I was gonna say, did the idea keep changing, and that's why the book feels like more than one story?
Well, let me just read.
No, I'm gonna interrupt you.
Let me just read her words. The route that the Bread Wizard book took to publication went from pillar to post and back again. It was bought, edited, re-edited, dropped, abandoned, handed off to other editors, sold back to me, pitched again by my unfailingly optimistic agent, and editor after editor could not figure it out. Many of them liked it, but what would they do with it? It needed to be darker. No, darker. No, wait, too dark. Mona was too old.
Mm.
Mona was too young. Mona was the
Mm.
correct age, but now sounded too old and needed to be made sweeter. Did I really need to start with a dead body? Could we maybe ease into
Yes.
the dead body situation?
No. That dead body was great. It captured you right away. Boom. Instant hook. But okay, so that makes sense. It's like a design by committee, which is why it feels like it's just off. Just off a bit.
Yeah, I mean, so she has this thing, and I kind of agree. She says another thing, and let me read her exact words. Ultimately, the problem was that it was a fairly dark children's book, and I, under the name Ursula Vernon, was a writer of whimsical, upbeat books. If a publisher bought it, they would need me to write about 4 other books first before they could slip it into the lineup, or else my brand would be in limbo. Mind you, I have always felt that kids like much darker books than adults are comfortable handing them, but I also understand that parents and librarians are the ones who control the book buying. And a weird little anti establishment book with carnivorous sourdough and armies of dead horses was too hard a sell.
Yeah?
I don't think it's too dark for kids. Like, I don't think it's too dark for a middle grade book. I don't think it's cozy,
No,
but
it's hard to do both of those.
I mean, we talked about Goosebumps. Like the first Goosebumps book, they kill the dog. I think that's almost that's
Yeah,
pushing the
and
line.
then they shot that as a TV show, and the twist was the dog was a ghost at the
It was a
very end,
it was a
Ben.
ghoul. It was a ghoul.
No, he was glowing.
So I guess that's my thing. I don't think it's too dark. I do think the tone is wonky. I think you want Mona to be like because that's my thing. Like we talk about Mona's too old, Mona's too young, Mona's I still have that problem. Like all the problems she named, I was kind of surprised when I read the acknowledgments because all the problems she names that like editors were forcing her to go back and forth on, these are all the problems I had with the book. Mona is an adult with a job in an apartment and she probably pays taxes and
And that makes you an adult. Paying taxes is the
I'll be honest, it's makes you more of an adult than buying alcohol. But I don't know. And like it's like you said, I don't hate the book. I think it's good, and I think maybe my thoughts will come out in the rubric if you just want to jump into that, like where like I could pinpoint like
yeah. Blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja/words dash about dash books dash review dash rubrics.
you really
Rubric.
enjoy that.
Yeah. So, content and ideas, Ben.
I think I'm actually going to go with like a 4. I could go like a 4 or a 5.
I would go with a 4. I originally gave it a 5, but I have to ding it for you're right. Why like the idea seemed to be it's an idea you had and you're like, "Oh, I could turn that into a book." And then you start turning it into a book and you're like, "I had a little less than maybe."
It, you mentioned I saw in your Goodreads review that you mentioned that you felt like it was missing a training montage, and I think I agree. I think the idea that I would like to see developed more is this notion of bread magic. I don't think if you were gonna if you're gonna build the whole book around this notion of defensive baking, I need a little bit more creativity than just she makes a tiny golem and then she makes a big golem. And she doesn't really do anything in between. They have a thing where she like uses a scone as like a spy device. That was going somewhere. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, the
But
scones she could hear through the batch. Yeah.
yeah, but
Again,
like
Grape shot. We already came up with a great idea, Ben.
Yeah, I think we needed a little. I think if you're going to build the whole thing around it, you need a little bit
And
more.
then she needed to turn around and grape shot the Duchess.
But, well, like have the Duchess eat a cookie and then make it expand in her stomach and have her die in the most painful way possible.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's fucking brutal.
And you blame it on Joshua, so you get rid of him too. Like, oh, I just saw him stab her for some reason. Take her away, or I'll bread golem you.
Now I'm the bread emperor.
Yeah. Anti-establishment. Yeah, I'm
That's
anti-establishment.
anti-establishment. Yeah. I think I think it rises like it loses a point because I think the bread mage stuff is underdeveloped, but it got as high as a 4 because I do think the rest of the magic, like the sympathetic magic and the idea of it taking some energy out of you, and pouring a certain amount of energy in, and how to make things more or less intelligent, I think that was good. And I think the world was pretty good. Like the
I
third,
think it would
the
have been
final.
nice if that gingerbread man becoming smarter and smarter went somewhere.
Yeah, the final battle was just really rushed.
Yeah,
Uh,
it felt like it was from a different book.
It felt like you didn't know how to end it,
Yeah.
and you just powered through, which isn't terrible.
I think you're right. We could have just focused on the murder mystery and done that.
I saw some reviews that were kind of along the lines of what I thought that whatever book she wrote before this under the name T. Kingfisher, I guess it was a little smaller in scope. And I saw somebody saying like I wish she'd kind of kept the scope a little smaller. And I think yeah, that's what this needed. It needed to just be a little tighter. But that kind of goes into organization where I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I gave it a
Um,
4 initially, but even I noticed the weirdness of like, all right, well, you saved the day, you got rid of Oberon, and hey, we're being invaded. We need you. Like it felt like there is this pause.
yeah, I guess you could say that it ties in because they were getting rid of the mages, and that's why Mona needs to be called up. But yeah, I don't know. They could have just had like all the mages be recruited to go fight or something, and all that's left is these people. I don't know. But like I said, I feel like I'm having trouble thinking of a good way to get from point A to point B. So I'm guessing maybe the author had some trouble thinking of a way to get from point
I
A to
just
point
focus
B.
on the murder plot.
Yeah, that's what I'd do. You know, or you got like 3. I honestly think
You don't even need to involve the Duchess.
you
don't
got 2
need.
to 3 books worth of material here.
Yeah.
And even what's here still kind of begs for a sequel. Like you kind of want to know what Mona does with the rest of her life. So, yeah, I think I can understand why editors had a problem figuring out what to do with this book because I'm right there with them. I think I would struggle to edit this. But yeah, use the language. What do you think?
I gave 4.
I think I'm good with that. I pick on it for trying
Very
to be
good.
highly quotable, but she's obviously a very good writer.
Personal preference. I'd also go with a 4.
I'm at a 2. This is not my thing. I don't like
Yeah.
Mona at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
But no, that's me. I even said to you, I was like, right off the bat, I'm like, it's a fine line for me, and I can't really put my finger on what it is that made Mona not work, but I just don't like the cutesy crap. But sometimes I do. I don't know. Sometimes I do. Like the Legends and Lattes, I thought was fine. I even like Bookshops and Bone Dust a little bit, and I liked. I don't know. Didn't work for me. Recommendation strength.
I'm thinking of 3.
I don't know what genre
Yeah,
I have in mind.
that's the thing. I'm not sure who it's for.
I'll put it this way. If we're talking middle grade books, I think I would go with a 4. I do think part of the reason my personal preference is so low is because I'm just
You're a
maybe
35,
that's
36-year-old man.
I'm 36. Yeah, I almost said 37. I will be 37
Yeah,
shortly.
you will. Yeah, you will.
But I no, as far as like middle grade books go, I do think T. Kingfisher is on to one thing with what she said in the acknowledgments, and that is that kids can handle things a little bit darker than what adults are comfortable giving them. I agree with her. And I think part of the reason I don't like it is because it is just a little bit too young for me. But if I were the right age for it, I think I would appreciate that it doesn't totally underestimate me and that it understands I can handle a little bit of death, a little bit of war. So I think if I'm recommending it to I would say young. I think 14 is like the cap of people who I would recommend this to. But 12 to 14, yeah, I think I'd recommend it strong.
Okay.
So what do I come up with? 26, 42,
I came up with 67.
48. I'm doing this in my head. 48, 63.
Yeah. I gave it 4 stars.
I think I gave it 3.
You did.
Still a positive review.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're
It was
we're allowed to disagree. When we're disagreeing on personal preference, I think we're in a good spot.
still better than The Hunger Games Part 2.
I don't know about that.
We'll see, Ben. Maybe the next book will make Snow not a
I
total
gave
imbecile.
The Hunger Games Part 2 or 3. I'll tell you this. I enjoyed The Hunger Games Part 2 more.
Ooh.
I mean, you guys know that my personal preference was much higher.
Yeah.
So, it's just a vibe, I guess. I don't know. I can't explain my personal preference. You just have to you just got to trust me.
All right. My wife says I'm taking too long, so I guess I gotta go. So
All right.
I'm only a 34-year-old man, Ben, and she needs
She's
to
taking
protect
care
me.
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do the shout outs and posts.
All right. It's Editor Ben back again doing the shout outs in post. Gotta be honest with you, was kind of just silently arguing with myself from the last time you heard me cut in till now. Is that how it feels to listen to these episodes? Like when you're not present at the recording? Like you just you just wish you could say something to me? That's how I feel. Let's reward everybody who subscribes at a yacht plan tier level or above with their promised shout out. We have Isekai Sensei Sama of the That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster podcast. I think he knows what Neon Genesis Evangelion is. I don't know if he's watched it. And if he didn't, he should, because it's a classic. And it's now necessary to understand words about books. We have Shy with a Y over on TikTok. It cannot be banned. Then, of course, we have Jamie, the gravy man of the If You Want the Gravy movie blog. There are 4 Neon Genesis Evangelion movies that just came out. Complicates everything. It's very confusing. You should review those. I don't know if you might have to watch the show. I don't know. It's impossible for me to separate it. John Bierce, actual author of The Mage Errant, The Rack, and an upcoming new project, More Gods Than Stars. I've actually been reading it. It's pretty good. Then we have Keegan. Keegan did not ask us to shout out a project, but hello, Keegan. That's it. That's it. So you guys who stick around till the end, you get to hear some fun addendum. I think my personal preference on this one probably went up to a 3 as I was listening back to the recording. I think I get a little bit now maybe what she was trying to do with Mona. I initially resented Mona for her sweet, saccharine cuteness, but the more I think about it, the more I think there's something in the story of having that disillusioned. Realizing that, the people you thought you could trust would turn on you in a moment's notice. And the only reason they're happy with you now is because you would have given your life to save them. And even that might not be enough if times get tough again. So yeah, I think I kind of get it now. I think I click with it a little bit better than I did. I still don't think it's entirely my thing, but yeah, definitely I'm coming around on it. Definitely, I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't thinking when I read it. I don't usually have this experience of like changing my mind so drastically. It's strange. It's strange to be a podcaster. These are the fun things you get when you get used to the sound of your own voice. You got to get used to the sound of your own stupid thoughts. And isn't that, after all, not what Words About Books is all about? Thank you, everyone. Good night.